Welcome back to episode 16 of the Colossal Color Showdown, and in today's episode we're going to be looking at a Sap Green. For this episode we've managed to collect 10 Sap Greens. We have Daniel Smith, Holbein, Sennelier, Schmincke, Winsor Newton, Quore, Mission Gold, Jackson Art, Cass Art, and also Van Goghs. M. Graham and Da Vinci do have Sap Greens. I wasn't able to get hold of them, so I am very sorry for these two colours missing. My first impression with these 10 Sap Greens is there's actually a huge range of hues. You got the really bright Sap Greens like the Schmincke and the Mission Gold, all the way down to very muted green, almost olivey green of colours like the Quore, Sennelier, Jackson Art and Cass. You also have nice in-betweeny colours like the Holbein, Winsor Newton, Daniel Smith and the Van Goghs. As usual, the Sennelier, Jacksons and Cass Arts did suffer from gloopiness, which made it quite hard to try to get a nice even coverage on the swatches. Also, when you take a closer look at the Sennelier, Jacksons and Cass Arts, because they're made with PB29, which is the ultramarine, you do see a lot more granulation than other colours, and also the ultramarine blue coming through that's separated slightly from the PY153 or the PY154. All Sap Greens that we have here are made with some sort of really bright modern yellow, such as Nickel Azure Yellow, which is PY150 like the Daniel Smith and the Holbeins, the Nickel Dioxazine Yellow, which is the PY153 like the Sennelier, Schmincke, Jackson's, Cass Art, the Isoindoline Yellow, the PY110s like the Winsor Newton, and the PY154, which is the Benzimidazoline Yellow. It's quite interesting because that is the Cass Arts one, and normally the Sennelier, Jackson Art and Cass Arts have the exact same combination of pigments, but in this case Cass Arts has a different yellow to it than the other two, which we've seen it happen once before in an episode where the Cass Arts decided to go with slightly different combination of pigments to the other two brands. All of these colours start with these really bright yellow base, and then they will throw in either a green or a blue into the mix. Most common one is the phthalo green, either in the blue shade or the yellow shade, which are the PG7s and the PG36. And when they add green into the mix rather than the blue, they do also counteract how bright mixing a bright yellow with a bright green would be by adding some sort of red shade or an orange shade, such as the Sap Green by Daniel Smith has Quin Orange mixed into it just to mute that green down a bit. Or colours like PR101, which is synthetic red iron oxide, just to bring that colour down a notch or two. In terms of how smoothly the colour went down, I would say Holbein and Mission Gold are the best in terms of getting an even, untextured wash across your paper. As for prices, the Jackson's Art one is the cheapest, which is not a surprise, and also Quore being the most expensive, which we've seen over and over in this series. Daniel Smith does have an alternative Sap Green colour, which they call a deep Sap Green, which is made with PB27, PY3 and PR48. Now the Sap Green is made with an orange, yellow and green. This would be the blue, yellow and orange version. All the different brands list their Sap Green as a very good lightfast colours, which is really nice to know. In terms of opacity, this is just like the yellow ochre episode where the opacity varies hugely across different brands. I would say the most transparent colours are the Daniel Smith, Winsor Newton and Quore. The most opaque I would say is the Sennelier and Cass Arts, with Jackson following very closely behind. And then M. Graham's one, I'm not sure what's happened here, but it's got this very white deposit, whereas the Sennelier's one is a light green deposit. And you can see the difference in the opacity again here. You can see the deposits happening on the schminkes and the senneliers. I will put a high-res scan of this and all the other test sheets I make for this series up on my Patreon, so do check it out if you want a much closer look at how these sheets look on patreon.com/Oto Kano. In terms of lifting and staining, huge variety of staining levels. The least staining one, which was the schminkes one, went almost back to white. In comparison, the most staining one, which was the coarse one, barely lifted at all. So when you look at these two, that is a huge difference in terms of the lifting or the staining strengths of these colors. Most other colors, though, I would say they are pretty good at lifting or medium to lifting. Interesting one is the Mission Gold's Sap Green, which instead of going back to white, the color of the paper goes to yellow compared to the other colors. In terms of glazing, I'm telling you, Sap Green by Core has the best glazing I've ever seen in any color, in any brand. Not surprising because it is an incredibly highly staining color, which means when you put the second layer of color down, the original layer isn't going to lift so easily, and it's a very transparent color, which means you can see the first layer clearly through the second layer. So if you do a lot of glazing and you want that really good control, then I highly recommend the Sap Green by Core. If you do a lot of botanical stuff and you do a lot of layers, then Sap Green by Core might be your best friend. There is a huge variety in terms of how well the colors glaze. I would say that maybe Holbein lifts a little bit too easily. You can see the lighter effect on the outside. Jackson's, the Casa and Sennelier's one, particularly these two, I have to say it's a mess when you try to glaze it. It's just an ugly mess of I don't know what's happening. So I don't recommend using these three brands for if you do a lot of glazing. I also have to say Van Gogh is a little bit messy as well. So in terms of glazing, I would say the best glazers are the Core with Winsor Newton closely following that, and then maybe the Daniel Smith. But like these middle ones and these, I wouldn't bother with them. So that's it for this episode. In the next episode, we're going to take a look at how these colors do in terms of gradated washes, the salt technique, as well as how well they mix with other colors. So do look forward to that next Monday. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye!